Coming up on this episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society, we finally get the name right. Donkey Kong Country Return. Darn it. It's dangerous to go alone, so the Nintendo Cartridge Society goes with you. Welcome to Nintendo Cartridge Society. My name is Patrick Ellers. I am joined, as always, by my co-host, Mark Mitchell. Mark, we're going to talk about Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze today.
That's right.
Because it is a new release on Switch this last week. Here's the thing. We are also going to be talking about South Park: The Fractured But Whole.
Bonus episode.
We are splitting this into 2 episodes. If we're going to use some salty language probably on the South Park episode because it's South Park.
It's inevitable.
So if when you get to the end of this and you want to hear more of us, go check out that other episode. Or if you already heard us talk about Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze, and you want to skip over to the other episode, you can do that too. There's just a lot to talk about, Mark.
There's a lot to talk about.
How are you?
Doing great.
Doing well, that's great.
Yeah. How are you doing?
I am also great.
Good. So glad to hear it.
I'm glad we are having this obligatory conversation.
Yeah, me too.
This is when I've already set up, like, here are 2 interesting topics we're going to discuss. Now let's forcibly not discuss either.
Now here's a third interesting topic that we will be discussing in the future.
Oh, interesting.
May 7th. And by May 7th, I of course mean June 7th.
We're going to be determining which Pokemon is the best Pokemon starter. If you like that Bulbasaur, I know you like that Bulbasaur. You got to rep the Bulbasaur, right? We need your input because Mark and I are dummies for most of the Pokemon generations, right?
Absolutely.
Like, what's a Gen 5 starter?
Oh, man.
I don't know. We're going to do some research going into this, but you might know, and you might know which of them is the best one. So you should email us, Nintendo Cartridge Society at gmail.com, and put your stamp on the episode.
We're counting on you, honestly.
Honestly, we are, because I mean,
leap of faith.
Yeah, yeah. Please, just catch us. We're just jumping out here. Help! All right, Mark. Let's get into it. Let's talk about Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze. So you and I have played this game together a little bit before when it was on the Wii U.
Yeah, and
we recorded most of an episode about it, right?
I think we recorded an entire episode about it.
There we go.
And you might be a little bit confused, dear listener, because you might be like, I thought this game was called Donkey Kong Country Returns Tropical Freeze, because when you did that episode in the past,
that's
Patrick and Mark, you called it that ad nauseum.
That's right. And I think even made a point of saying, like, what a mouthful this title is.
Or been like, oh, how weird it is that there's Donkey Kong Country, and Donkey Kong Country Returns as 3 separate series.
Right. None of this is true.
No.
We are only recently good at this. We were bad once upon a time. But in that spirit, Mark, you picked up Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze on the Switch.
Yeah.
I did not, because I owned it on Wii U.
And you didn't want to spend $10 more to pick it up again?
I mean, I kind of just didn't want to pick it up again. Double dipping on games is always sort of tough, right? Like, sure, I may have purchased Super Mario Brothers 3 more times than I can count, but I don't. If I wanted to keep playing Tropical Freeze, I could do it on Switch and not. I don't have any kind of like turning the Switch on.
Oh, you mean the Wii U?
Yes, that's what I mean. But so yeah, that's part of why I didn't go back.
Yeah, we had a blast playing. We played in co-op. I mean, this game is amazing, and I guess really what I'll say about the Switch version is that it really is the definitive version, not only for the portability, but also just for the playability for somebody like me who the relentless, in my opinion, challenge of Tropical Freeze on the Wii U. I enjoyed playing it with you because we had fun failing together and like really scraping to make progress. But funky mode is a game changer.
Oh yeah,
like it's
in a way that feels like good and not like cheating your way. Not that I'm accusing you of cheating.
right. No, like exactly, in a way where it makes the game for me like fun to play. It's the level of challenge that I want out of this game instead of like the brutality that I feel like Tropical Freeze was known for. Now, funky mode does not just mean that you're playing as Funky Kong. You have the option of playing as Funky Kong, and Funky basically combines the abilities of all of the Kongs into one character.
Sure.
So
because that's one of like his like surfing on the spikes, that's basically a cranky
right, and he kind of has like a hover ability and like a second jump, and like the physics are a little bit different with Funky than like playing with any of the other Kongs. But when you're playing as him, you don't have the option of also getting cranky or anything because he combines all of the Kongs into one.
Sure.
I played with him for the first couple of levels, and I just I didn't really enjoy his physics.
Yeah.
And so I switched to playing with Donkey Kong, and when you do that, it basically just becomes like the game before where you pick up barrels and you can play with Cranky or Diddy or Dixie. And to me, this is the perfect way to play. So basically what Funky Mode does when you're playing with Donkey Kong is it just gives you more. One, it gives you more hearts. So instead of 2, you have 3, and when you have another Kong with you, you have 6 total.
Yeah.
So that means, at least for me, like I can make mistakes and still get through a level fine.
Yeah, this was also true of the 3DS version of Donkey Kong Country Returns, that they just gave each character an extra heart because they were like, oh, maybe my bad. But I don't know why that's a lesson they like needed to learn and implement again. That's just maybe something that should always be an option, is like, yeah, maybe they need more than 2 hits. Especially when like taking 2 hits means that your abilities are neutered a little bit.
Right. The other thing that it does is once you get a part of the KONG, and maybe you could always do that, maybe in the Wii version, but in this version, the puzzle pieces, like the collectibles, you don't have to hit a checkpoint in order for them to be retained.
Oh, really?
So once
just
you
as
collect
soon as you
them,
tag them there.
it's just like there. And then you can, if you die before you reach a checkpoint, you just keep them in your inventory.
Yeah.
And you don't have to worry about getting them again. I guess what I really like about and the game is not easy, whether you're playing with Funky or whether you're just playing in Funky mode in general.
Yeah.
I still died a bunch.
I love how much you're saying Funky. That's what I'm laughing at over here.
I still died a bunch. It's still difficult to like pull off some of the platforming, and
there are still minecart levels.
There's still minecart levels and like the rocket barrels, and to get the puzzle pieces and like things like that. Like the challenge is still there, and the regular mode is there if you like want it. I just feel like this is a much more like forgiving, level playing field version of it.
Yeah.
I don't know. For me, it's like the perfect amount of challenge that I want, that I'm not like frustrated.
Yeah.
It's more like, oh, I can do this, and I know I can do it. And when I die, it's because I made a dumb mistake.
So let me ask you this. Because when I've played the modern Donkey Kong Country games, I have mostly just been playing them to get to the end of the level and get to the next level, which is, not how I played the original Donkey Kong Country games, or at least the first one, where I was like, I'm never going to, 101% this game, but like I wanted to find all the secrets, or at least as many as I could. Are you finding that you were going back to that a little at all? Or
yeah,
were you...
I am, which is surprising because it's not really necessarily the way that I play games.
Yeah.
But because once you like get through a level, you have a better sense for it, and so I guess I don't want to say like you've mastered it, but you definitely like have a better idea of what's going on.
Yeah.
It's much easier to like want to hop back in and play through it again when you know that like, oh, I can make it through this. And I didn't just spend like an hour, like getting by the skin of my teeth.
Yeah, and that can be. I think also this game, I guess both of them, is an easier thing to like tackle by yourself too. Like it's fun to play together, but the way the game punishes you for like two characters dying and you losing 2 lives is just brutal.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I feel like it's a little bit like the 2D Marios or even like Super Mario 3D World that way, where the multiplayer is fun, but it's like a chaotic sort of fun.
Yeah.
If you really want like precision platforming, you have to play by yourself.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
that's definitely true in these games as well.
So how much of this game did you get to play?
I'm about where you and I left off. So I'm in like the I can't remember what like the name of it is, but it's like the water world.
Sure, maybe like World 4?
Yeah, I'm in World 4. And man, yeah, it's just a super super enjoyable game. The music is almost categorically great.
Yes.
There's some not every
Almost categorically.
Yeah, not every track is like
semi-categorically
a banger,
right?
but when it's good, it's like incredible. I think in the first episode we played a few tracks.
Yeah, I think you're right. And yeah, so just all of like the how are you finding the like the boss fights this time around?
Yeah, I don't know what it is. I don't know if it is the extra health, if it's playing by myself, if it's just like up to this point I have a little bit more familiarity with these levels because I've played them before.
Sure.
But I don't find them as long or as tedious as I do.
Yeah.
Like, do you remember the one with like the owl, like the big owl that would like shoot like
feathers
at you,
and for like a second it becomes like a bullet hell kind of thing. And you just
yeah,
have to stay out of the way of his
like
feathers.
all of that was fine. I don't know. I'm just in general finding the experience of playing it so much more pleasurable than I did the first time.
And are you playing mostly on the TV or?
I would say it's like
or?
half and half.
Okay.
Which of course is one of the great strengths of the Switch.
Yeah.
Is that I can do it either way. It looks great on the TV. It looks good, in portable mode.
Yeah. Is there any like UI things where you're like, oh, this is a little strange? It's like harder to see on the smaller screen.
No, I
like
haven't found that. I feel like.
What about like when you do? Because the game does a lot of that like presentation where you're like in the foreground and like in the background.
Yeah, it hasn't really been a problem.
Yeah.
I feel like for the most part, all of that stuff was solved by playing it solo. Honestly, I feel like the game
whole
is
thing
so
feels
chaotic.
less chaotic. Yeah,
because it's just easier to understand what's going on.
Yeah,
I also like the controls on the Switch, and I think that is just like how comfortable I am using like playing on the Joy-Cons or playing on like in handheld mode versus the gamepad.
Yeah,
which always felt a little. I didn't use it enough, and so it always felt a little like difficult for me. It never felt right to play on the gamepad.
Yeah, sure. So, in terms of Nintendo games that we've seen this year, we haven't seen a bunch, right? It's really just been like Kirby. and this. Where would you like put this up as? I mean, obviously the lineup so far this year like pales in comparison to last year, but like, does this feel good? Are you happy to have this out right now, or does it feel like? Even if it's kind of a new experience for you, does it feel like maybe a little bit of a retread of
No,
stuff?
I'm actually super excited that I picked it up. Like $60 is a lot to ask for.
$60 is a lot.
If for anything, especially I feel like for a game like this that is a re-release of a Wii U game that cost $50 when it came out.
Yeah.
But no, I am really, really happy with it. It is hitting again. I've just been playing in funky mode, but it's been hitting that like, it feels more like the original Donkey. My experience and like memories fond memories of playing the original Donkey Kong Country than any Donkey Kong Country game that I have played since then.
And we've played Donkey Kong Country 2. And I guess that's really it.
Well, but Returns we played. I mean, like to get but I mean, just like, yeah. So for me, it's the Donkey Kong Country, and I like Returns.
Mm-hmm.
I never played on the 3DS or the 3DS.
Right. Which I think is the definitive way to play it because it is a non-motion controlled version of that game.
And I just found like the Rocket Barrel and all that kind of stuff like
too challenging,
not super fun. I'm not having that. I was kind of dreading the Rocket Barrel levels in Tropical Freeze, and again, I don't really know why, but I'm just like cruising through them. It's probably because it's a little more forgiving. You have 3 instead of 2.
Right. Let me ask you this. Funky Kong with his new move set, which seems to combine everyone's move set. Does that feel like definitive when we see Funky Kong again in some future game, he's going to have the same move set?
I hope so. It's hilarious.
It's I do think it's very funny that like the ultimate Kong would be Funky Kong. But like both Diddy and Dixie are, sort of reiterating their movesets from previous games. And the original release of Tropical Freeze sort of established the pogo stick physics of Cranky, which I think we were all just sort of like, okay, yeah, that's how Cranky Kong controls. He's Scrooge McDuck in the DuckTales, basically, or he's Shovel Knight. But that like this is also now definitive what Funky Kong is.
Yeah, he's like the Uber Kong.
Uber Kong. And are we ready for a Funky Kong solo adventure? Or does it have to be a team up with Waluigi?
Great question.
Thank you.
Because that would also potentially bring Waluigi into our Kong rankings.
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah.
Which honestly, like playing Tropical Freeze, maybe we'll have to revisit that at some point after you've had a chance to play with Funky, because it kind of changes things.
Yeah, well, I mean, we didn't put Funky super low on our list.
No, we didn't disparage Funky.
You think he may be like up in the S class, as it were?
Yes. Can you remind me where we settled?
No, I cannot.
Okay, yeah, exactly.
I remember that Cranky is at the top,
right?
And then Diddy, right, and then Dixie,
yeah,
and then Donkey.
And okay, 2 things. One, Dixie's shocking yellow hair is still problematic.
Of course,
but
it's always going to be horrifying.
But I am using her much more than I use Diddy. And the second thing is, this game begins with a cutscene that is unskippable. The cutscenes, like the boss cutscenes or like level intros later in the game, you can totally skip them. But
can you even the first time you encounter them? Okay.
But the later the first like intro that establishes a story is unskippable.
Yeah.
And you need to let me skip every cutscene.
Yes.
Every cutscene should be skippable. There should never be a cutscene that I cannot skip if I want to.
Especially when we're talking about a Donkey Kong Country game.
Like a 2D platformer that like the story matters not at all.
There's no way you're missing story information that like you absolutely need.
Yeah.
South Park will let you skip anything.
Yeah.
But it would be a mistake too.
Yeah, like sure.
I would be confused.
Give me a warning, make me press X and hold it.
Yeah, that's all.
So that way I'm confirming it. But let me just in any game ever, not just this game. Just let me skip it if I want to.
Yeah, we'll put you on blast, non-skippable cutscenes. You let us skip you. All right, Mark. Anything else you want to add about Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze?
No, just like if you have never played it before, it is so worth playing. And if you played it before and were frustrated by it, I'm telling you, Funky Mode is there for you.
Man, $60 is so much. I've got some thinking.
We'll just have to play together.
We will. We'll just play together. Perfect. All right, that is going to do it for this little episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society. If you want to hear more, we're going to talk about South Park: The Fractured But Whole on the episode that is also in your feed right now, if you subscribe to this episode. And if not, if you don't subscribe to the show, then you should go to Apple Podcasts and subscribe, and also rate and review. We love all that stuff. If you want to follow us on Twitter, we are, I am at Patrick_Ellers, Mark is at MKE Mitchell. Collectively, the show is at NinCart Society. You can check us out on Facebook. It's just Nintendo Cartridge Society there. If you like Mark and Mine's opinions, we write about comic books on retconpunch.com. Olivia Duncan made our logo. Our theme music is provided by 8-Bit Betty. You can check out more of his music by going to 8bitbetty.com or by listening right now. For my co-host, Mark Mitchell, this is Patrick Ellers saying you can just skip this cutscene. Cut or skip it. Thanks for listening.
Campfire.